by viewer request, strawberry lemon wine. And we're going to take you through all the steps that we use to make this wine, as well as a full-on tasting with a judgment score at the end. So I have here a lemon, and I'm going to zest it into this bucket. And this is going to take a while, so I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing. I probably should have done this first, but we're going to hydrate our yeast. And today we are using Red Star Premier Côte de Blanc yeast. And the reason for that yeast is it's a 12 to 14% ABV tolerance, so that's about as much alcohol as it can make, which is about where we're going to be. And it tends to bring out nice fruity flavors. So I thought, you know, it's really good for red wines, and they say especially ciders. So we're just going to use half a packet of this. And what I'm doing is hydrating. Is it necessary to hydrate? No, not at all. We're doing it because a couple of these yeast packets were gotten to us under questionable temperature conditions. In other words, a UPS truck. So
it's the way with getting yeast shipped to you in the middle of the heat of the summer.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that it's still viable. So I'm just gonna, can we just get some water? Just pour a little bit of water in there. Not a lot, a little bit more than that. That's good. And I just give it a little swirl. It's just, you know, a quarter cup, half cup of water, nothing big. You want to get them all in there and swirl them around, mix it up real good.
And what we're looking for is for them to start creating bubbles and create a little foam dome on the top.
Exactly.
And if that happens, we will make sure to show you so that way you will know what to look for.
So we have our lemon zest in here. Now you may be wondering, why am I not using the flesh or the juice of the lemon? Good question. It's because it's usually very acidic, and too much acidity can actually harm fermentation. So we're going to play with that a little bit. And if it's not acidic enough, then we'll add some lemon juice. But if it's too acidic, we may have to buffer it. So, you know, it's just the game of playing with things. So here we go. Frozen strawberries.
Why frozen strawberries?
They were cheaper.
Well, they're cheaper for one thing. They're easier to get if you're in a place that doesn't readily have strawberries in season. And frozen fruit are typically picked at the peak of ripeness,
yep,
and then immediately frozen, so they could
do better than fresh. And
finally, their cell walls are pre-degraded, meaning it's easier for the yeasty beasties to get in there and do their job.
These are actually whole strawberries. Kind of amazing. Okay, so these are whole strawberries. They're still a little bit cold, so I'm not super concerned about that. But what I would like to do is rinse this bag out because it's got good juices in there. Can I have the... You want to risk this?
This is probably going to end in tears, but it's okay.
Yeah, hey, you know, that's part of the fun of having your own YouTube show. Spilling stuff all over your partner, you know? Fun for the whole family. See? Colored water. Look at that. It's all good.
You need more?
No, because it'll get dangerous. Next bag. They've been sitting out for a while, but I'm kind of glad they didn't... Yeah, there's ice. Look at it, see? Kind of glad they didn't totally defrost, because when they're totally defrosted and come to room temperature, that's when they're in the danger zone and they could spoil. So you kind of have to play with that a little bit. All right. Wow. There's ice everywhere. A little bit more water, please. Don't be stingy with the water. It's all getting in there. Okay. You might be wondering, is it bad to have frozen fruit in here? Well, in theory, but I'll explain. What may actually happen, because this is going to be very cold, is that it'll just take the yeast a little bit longer to get going. Like instead of, we usually see activity within a few hours to a couple of days, it might take a few days, and that's fine. It doesn't really bother me. I'd rather that than have a chance at spoiled fruit. And they're kind of, sort of defrosted. And the water is actually relatively warm, just like everything here in Florida this time of year. Okay, now it's time for some calculations. Actually, let me get this out of the way. By the way, that was a total of 6 pounds of frozen strawberries. That's why we're using a bucket, because there's going to be a lot of lees and sediment left over from those strawberries as they fall apart. And somebody's going to ask, so I'm going to say it right now. Could you mash these up? Could you put them in a blender? Could you put them in a food processor? Yes, absolutely you can, but you don't need to. They're going to be in here for a couple of weeks. And as she said, the cell walls are all broken up. They're probably going to fall apart all on their own. The yeast will get to it.
They're microscopic. They're going to just do their thing.
And let's face it, yeast evolved in nature. Last I checked, there's no blenders or food processors out in the forest. Food for thought. So the next step, and we're going to have to do this a little bit approximating because it's really hard to know exactly how much liquid we're going to be putting in there, how much liquid we're going to end up with after we rack everything. So I'm not going to worry too much, but I'm going to use the calculator teacher said I would never have handy. I had to look for it this time. It wasn't just right there. It was in my pocket. I know that there's 5 servings in each of those bags, right? And each of those servings is 6 grams of sugar. So using the handy dandy calculator, 6 grams of sugar times 5 servings is 30 grams times 3 bags. That means 90 grams of sugar in the whole thing of strawberries. If I divide that by 454, I get about 20% of a pound. So 0.2 pounds. That's it. So if we know our yeast can go to 12 to 14%, let's say we're looking for 13%. Right smack in the middle. That way, worst case, it ends slightly sweet. Best case, it goes totally dry. We back it sweeten later. So 13% divided by 135. Okay, we're just reverse engineering the calculation for calculating ABV. So taking 13 ABV divided by 135, and I get 0.096. Now, because it's more dense than water, we add 1. If you didn't catch any of that, I'm trying to figure out what our maximum starting gravity should be. So 1.096. I'm going to call that 1.100 just to be easy, simple numbers, which coincidentally happens to be right where the sweet spot is for almost all of our brews. Tends to work out really, really well. Things just operate nicely at that rate.
And what he means by that is if you have too little of fermentable sugars, then you're not going to reach your ABV that you're looking for. And if you have too much fermentable sugars, you can actually harm your yeast and therefore hinder fermentation.
They die, they stall out, your wine ends up way too sweet and doesn't ferment enough. So if I know 1.100 is my ultimate starting gravity, the max that I can go for, 1.100 minus the strawberries, right? 0.020 gives me 1.080. Now I know that sugar, regular plain old white granulated sugar, is 0.046 per pound in a gallon. So 0.080 divided by 0.046 gives me 1.74 pounds of sugar. I'm going to call that 1 3/4 pounds just to round things off. See, I just estimated everything because it's probably going to be a little bit lower than that because I have a feeling we're making a bit more than a gallon.
Yep.
So let me take a note on that.
Now, because we put our strawberries in there first,
Makes it a little difficult.
We may have actually done ourselves a disservice. We probably should have put the sugar in there first because it'd be easier for our scale to weigh that without the extra weight of the strawberries.
Sure.
And it would be easier to stir because we didn't have the strawberries in the way.
I'm just going to weigh the sugar separately and then dump it in.
Okay.
I'll be right back. Easy peasy. I'll just measure it out. So that's 1 pound, 12 ounces of sugar. Someone will ask if you could use other kinds of sugar, and while you can, they are going to change the flavor a little bit. There's a lot of sugar. Mm-hmm. A common question that we get is, when you use this much sugar, does it make it dangerous? Here's the thing. The sugar gets converted to alcohol, so there should ideally be no sugar left in this when it's done. Now, we may add some for sweetening, but all this sugar is not actually consumed by us when we drink the wine. Okay, that's something a lot of people don't seem to understand.
It's consumed by the yeasts, that way they can make alcohol.
And now we want to add some water. We started with about 112 ounces or so. We've used some of it so far. So we're just going to dump most of that water in. Oh, wait, we have our bucket has numbers on the side. So, yeah, keep going. You got some room. I'm going to guess about 1.5 gallons is probably where we need to sit. So keep going. You're just at 1 gallon right now. Oh, wait, that's... Yeah.
Isn't this...
Yeah, this is gallons. You're almost at 1.5. You were looking too.
I was.
And right there, 1.5 gallons. So
this is the first time we've fermented in this bucket, and so far, I'm pretty happy about it. This gauge on the side and the fact that it's semi-transparent is really making it a lot more user-friendly than the traditional opaque white buckets.
Right. I need something to stir this with. For that, I'm going to use the spattle. It's a spoon, it's a paddle, it's wet. And you can get yours in the description below. This comes from North Mountain Supply through our links and all that kind of thing. And we really love this thing. It's just awesome because it does actually come in handy for a lot of different purposes. One cool part about stirring in a bucket like this, can you hear that scraping sound?
That's a horrible sound.
It's horrible, but it's cool because it tells me there's sugar in there. When there's no more...
Ideally, you want to lift up a little bit and continue stirring, so that way you're not grinding those sugar particles into a plastic bucket.
They're dissolving.
But why was the spoon wet, Brian?
Because the spoon was wet because everything that we work with here has been sanitized in...
The red bucket of sanitization!
Which is literally a big red bucket that we fill with Star San and water according to the manufacturer's suggested mixing. It's for sanitizing. Everything that touches your wine or your must should be sanitized. It's one way to prevent infections, prevent bacterial things, prevent issues overall.
If for some reason you were unable to get Star San or another brewing-friendly sanitizing solution...
Milton's Baby Bottle Cleaner. That's what they use in England.
Yep.
Some of our admins are in England, and that's what they use. But do something to sanitize. It's really important. I know a lot of people say, oh, you don't need to. Our ancestors didn't. Well, I think if our ancestors knew they should, they probably would have. So they probably drank a lot of really bad wine and really bad mead because they made it. They didn't want to waste it. So just, you know, a little extra insurance. I still hear scratching. And it's probably going to take longer to dissolve because it's cold.
This is cold. Yeah. All right, while I continue to mix this, Brian is going to show you what's happening over in the yeast area.
Okay. All right, that is not exactly a foam dome, but it's pretty darn close. And if I move it around, you can see other yeast coming up. So to me, that yeast is viable. There's some good bubbles there. It's not really just falling to the bottom and making a clear liquid. That's what usually happens if they're dead. Something else I'd like to point out, if this doesn't fully dissolve, just like when we said before that there's no such thing as food processors and stuff in nature, plain old sugar sitting in water, yeast are gonna get to it. We actually did a mead that way, where we just dumped the mead in, no mixing, no stirring, no nothing,
and it fermented just fine.
Right. Now in this case, I want to get some aeration into it, more so than I'm worried about I'm worried about getting some more oxygen in, more so than I'm worried about it actually being mixed up.
That being, at the beginning of fermentation, the yeast actually need some oxygen in order to be fruitful and multiply. Once they start getting busy and creating alcohol, you don't want to introduce oxygen into your must because alcohol plus oxygen could equal vinegar because acetobacters, which is what transfers alcohol into vinegar, are omnipresent. They're everywhere.
Yep, they're already in here. You just don't want to activate them. We don't want to give them an environment that they like, and that environment is oxygen and alcohol. One other thing, though, that we are going to add to this is some yeast nutrients. Let me grab that. Our yeast nutrient of choice is Fermade O. This one came from North Mountain Supply. We'll have links to all this stuff in the description below. And it says on the bottle, a quarter teaspoon at onset and a quarter teaspoon at, I think it's 1/3 depletion of the sugars. Well, you know what? I like to just keep it simple, so we're just going to use a half teaspoon now. That's it. There are ways to do a staggered yeast nutrition if you prefer. It's usually used for meads and things like that that don't have much nutrition. There's a lot of nitrogen in those strawberries, so we probably didn't even need it. But it's one of those, it's kind of insurance, you know? Does it hurt? No, that little bit that's in there, it's not going to change the flavor, but it might actually help the yeast out just a little bit, especially since they're cold right now.
Super cold.
That's about as mixed as I think we're going to get it. Again, not really all that worried. I do want to add our yeast now, though, because there's a little bit of water here. In they go.
Do you want some more water in that?
Yeah, maybe just rinse that out. Make sure the yeast get to fulfill their destiny. Okay, that's good. That's good. Just a little bit. There we go. And now we're going to mix that through briefly.
Are you going to bother taking a gravity reading?
I'm going to take one just because I want to see. I'm just curious.
So we know a couple things, and this is the reason why I asked, is that all of those sugars viable for our yeasts are not present right now in the must.
Well,
They're physically in there, but they're not they're in a format that we can read properly with our equipment. And that's because a lot of them are still in the strawberries.
Right. Well, that's only 20 points. It should be somewhere in the
not a lot of
1070 to
them,
1080.
but
Yeah.
Some of them.
Should be 1.070 to 1.080 if I mix the sugar in. But again, different amounts of water could drastically vary that as well. So I'm not going to get too crazy about it. But if it's too low, we might add more sugar just so we hit our alcohol that we want. Not bad. It's at 1.084. So with the 20 points, that makes this...
Question.
Yes.
With the temperature variance based on the reading
Well,
of that
this is calibrated to 60 degrees.
Oh, okay, so we're probably closer to it.
Yeah,
than
we're
what
probably
we
much
are.
closer to 60 degrees than we normally are. So I'm really not going to worry about it.
Okay.
Again, it's very much an approximation. I'm going to say, because we used some of the juices from the strawberries already, and then there was only 20 points from them.
Sure.
I'm going to call this 1.100 approximate. And just call it that.
Right, the yeast. Okay.
All right, now, I know some people out there right now are very upset with me because I did not get an accurate reading. And I kind of did it a little bit on purpose, but not exactly. I want to just kind of demonstrate that in home brewing, everything is approximated, no matter how accurate you think you are. Now, I got pretty close because we had some decent measurements, and I'm pretty good at volumizing things like that. But if your final gravity is 20 or 30 points different than that, look at why. Did you mix your sugar in properly? Do you have significantly more water in yours than what we added? Do you have significantly less water than what we added? Do you have more berries? Do you have a different kind of berry? All those factors actually will change drastically how that recipe comes together. So if you've never done this before, the idea is we gave you approximate numbers for everything. And actually we used 100 ounces of water. 100 ounces of water, 6 pounds of strawberries. Now, strawberries are an organic thing, and they will change and be varied. We used, actually, that's it. That's all the volume that we used, and the 1.75 pounds of sugar.
Because the zest of one lemon really isn't going to displace much.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to change much, and the yeast didn't change much either. And the water for the yeast actually came from that 112 ounces, or the 100 ounces. 100 ounces.
Now, there is a step that we have forgotten that I'm instantly regretting, and I'm hopeful that it's really not going to matter. And that's, we did not take a pH reading.
We could do that. We could do that right now.
Why is pH important, Brian?
Well, if the pH is too high, meaning over, say, 4.6, you risk, I hate to say it this way, but botulism. There is a risk of it. It's not... super great, but past higher than a 4.6, it could thrive, okay? Below 4.6, botulism is dead. It cannot live. Now, below, say, 4 or high 3s, that's where yeast don't really like to perform. Every yeast has their own pH tolerance. We tend to find that 4 to 4.5, sweet spot. It's like perfect. So I'm just going to grab a drop of the must, drop it onto this, drink the rest. Oh, that's good. And compare it to our list here, and it's coming out to right around 4.0. Yeah, I would call that spot on 4.0. Wouldn't you?
Maybe just a little shy of 4.0, but
that's fine.
So
that's
close.
Fine. It's in the range that it's perfectly fine. It's not too high, it's not too low. When I see 3.5, I like to buffer that. By the way, if we had to buffer this, we'd be using potassium bicarbonate or potassium carbonate, whichever you can get is totally fine. In a pinch, if you really had to, you can use baking soda, but be very careful with that. I only use that for very minor adjustments because it does start to taste salty after too much. So we don't really like to use that one.
And that's what we were going to use if it was too acidic. If it wasn't acidic enough, then we'd simply add some of that lemon juice from the lemon that we zested.
Exactly. But right now, it's spot on. It's right where we want it to be. So what's the next step, Derica?
Put the lid and airlock on it.
That's right. This bucket comes with its own lid and special bung and airlock. It has a seal too, right? All right. So in our airlock, we actually have sanitizer fluid, the same stuff that's in turbos. That's why there's just ever so slight cloud to it. If that dries out and you need to refill it, you can use like use a cheap liquor, basically.
Scoresby is your favorite.
Yeah, Scoresby Scotch is my favorite Scotch to use in this. We are currently out of it, and I couldn't think of the name of it. That's why she said that. But it's a really cheap Scotch. I used it for that for a long time. It's an old joke.
It's a joke.
But basically, any liquor will work really well. Try not to use plain water. It sort of works, but not as well as, sanitizer fluid.
The reason being is that we want to keep actual, honest-to-goodness bugs out of our brew. Fruit flies, in particular, love fruity things.
Oh, yeah.
Like strawberries or grapes. And they'll be attracted to this and go, oh, let me eat on that. And so they'll somehow, I don't know how
they get in, but
figure
they
out
do.
a way to get in there and die in that liquid.
Now,
if it was just water, they might, if their little bodies worm their way in there and then get in your brew.
Okay.
They're going to die in there.
I'd like to say something.
Okay.
Having a bad seal where it doesn't show airlock activity is not really a problem, okay? As long as bugs can't get in. That's what we're trying to say. So bugs are really the reason why you keep this closed up. You could put a piece of cheesecloth over the top, and as long as bugs can't get in, it's totally safe.
All right, so we have our notes. We just need some tape. We're going to put that on here, and we're going to let this sit.
Probably for a couple weeks. We're going to be watching for airlock activity. Once that slows to a crawl or down to almost nothing, we'll be back to show you the next step. Okay, so it's been about 2 weeks. It is time to take the first check on this. I have been doing a little of the swirly swirl on it, but I have not actually removed the lid at all. This lid is on there. Let's just take the airlock out if we can. There we go. This lid seals pretty well. Makes it difficult to get off.
Let me get in there.
There we go. All right, you ready for the big reveal? Oh, there we go. Did I spray you?
No, it's okay. Just the condensation. Now, at first glance, you might go, oh, that looks gross. Well, that's normal grossness of strawberries. They release their color and look like they're undead strawberries.
What we're looking for is mold, odd growths, things that don't look like just strawberries that are kind of falling apart.
I don't see anything that's untoward.
And then you want to smell it.
It smells like fermented strawberries.
It smells like my sister's room when we were growing up, like strawberry shortcake dolls.
And we come across this a lot when we
really does.
When we ferment
That's
strawberries.
amazing. Anyway, so we're going to give it its first check now. And by that we mean hydrometer reading. So I have a graduated cylinder with a hydrometer in it and a turkey baster, which I'm going to depress first and then try to get below the level of the strawberries so I get it just liquid. But nope, I'm not going to get just liquid. There's all kinds of stuff in there.
Which is normal.
Yeah. I think it's actually somewhat clear underneath. It's just there's so many solids in here. Yep, there we go. So that's much more clear.
Yeah.
Just a lot of solids. And, wow. 988. 0.988. So what that means is this went dry, okay? It's completely dry. Now, okay, caveat. It's not completely dry. No matter how low this goes, there's always going to be some amount of sugars left. Some that don't ferment. There's always a little bit of solids in there that could throw it off.
And some of you may be asking, but it went below 1.000, so it has to be completely dry. Well, not entirely true. Why? Because alcohol has a lower gravity reading than water. Water is 1.00. Pure alcohol is what?
0.079.
What? So, see, that's significantly below the 1.000. So, depending on how much alcohol we got going on in here, there probably might be still some fermentable sugars in there. We don't know.
Speaking of how much alcohol we have in there, let me use the calculator teacher said I would never have. By the way, I make that as a joke. I don't actually have anything against the teachers that I had in high school. Somebody thought I was, mad at my teachers. No, it's just a joke. So it started at 1.100, went to 0.988, using 112 points or 0.112 gravity times 135, my coefficient of choice. If you don't know why I use that, we actually have a couple videos. We can link one of those to you to explain the difference in coefficients that people use. That's 15.1%. I'm calling it 15%.
Fine.
So that's pretty strong stuff. Now, normally I would say, wait a week, take another reading. This went so low, and there's so much fruit and gunk and everything in here. I think racking this
I am going to agree with that based on those two criteria. Also, I know because of all the junk, racking it is going to have to happen multiple times to get a clear end product.
And or we can give it a little help.
We can.
Pectic enzyme.
But even then, that's going to sit on the bottom. We're going to have to rack it again regardless.
Yes. But what I think we're going to do today is we'll get to it when we do it. Let's get to the racking.
Let's get to the racking. So I have the auto siphon sanitized. I have our narrow mouth 1 gallon sanitized.
This was all sanitized, but I don't want to dump it back into the bucket because if I do, it'll just disturb the lees even more than it already is. And it's already disturbed.
It is. It's pretty disturbed.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the junk on the side of the
I'm
jar,
disturbed.
Yeah. This is going to be messy, but it always is when you use fruit like this. So what we're going to try to do is with the auto siphon, I'm going to go pretty far in and we're just going to get as much liquid out as we can. What we're doing now is really just trying to eliminate the solids, okay? So there's going to be lees. I mean, you can see it's milk coming through there. We're trying to get as much liquid out as we can, leaving behind all the solids. We can work with the rest of it. The trick is to not clog up your auto siphon. So we racked it, and as you can see, there's some sludge in the bottom here. It's mostly just solids. If we really, really wanted to, we might have gotten another half cup of liquid out or something like that, but...
We're up to here on our 1 gallon, which is more than 1 gallon, which we did on purpose because we know we're going to have to rack it again, and we want to get at least 1 full gallon. I'm happy.
Good, because this really isn't anything to worry about waste-wise. People ask what we do with this. We tend to compost it, actually. Some people say they bake with it. Now, my issue is this. If it consumed all the sugars, what's that fruit really going to taste like? I have tasted some of the fruit after it's been fermented. It doesn't taste good. So could you put it into a baked good? Sure, but don't expect it to be as good as a fresh strawberry.
Right. Fermented fruit tastes vastly different than fresh fruit that has absorbed alcohol.
Yes.
They're different things.
Oh, yeah,
So
not the same at all.
don't mistake that.
All right, so as you can see, we have a lovely bottle of goop with some wine in it. It's just part of the way it works. But strawberries do that. And strawberries give off a lot of little pieces of things, and they have what's called pectin. Pectin will, it just makes this haze. That's what it does.
It's great if you're making jellies and jams and preserves, but we're trying to make wine.
Exactly. So we're going to add some pectic enzyme. Now, pectic enzyme is literally just an enzyme that breaks down pectin. It's a naturally occurring thing. You can get it in little bottles like this from North Mountain Supply, and it's pretty effective. Generally speaking, people will say put it in during the primary fermentation. I just don't. What if you didn't really need it? I'd rather put it at the end. So at the end, I'm going to use half a teaspoon per gallon. Try not to touch the sides.
Good job.
Yeah, pretend you're playing Operation.
All those years of plain operation have finally paid.
That was a childhood well spent. Okay, and I'm just going to give this a little tiny swirl just to kind of get it in there. Yeah, it disperses it a little bit, and then we're going to put the bung back on. Oh, it's seating nicely. And now I'm going to give this another little swirl. I'm seeing some air bubbles in there, and I just want to show you that there's gases in there, and it'll still come out that airlock, just like that. That's perfect, because this little tiny bit of headspace is nothing. But even if we had a little bit more, there's still gas coming out of here. It's going to force any oxygen out, and the liquid is more permeable by CO2 than it is by oxygen anyway, so if you're worried about oxidation, as long as there's CO2 present, it's probably not going to happen.
So at this point, what we're hoping is going to occur is that all the little particles of strawberry are going to settle down to the bottom like good boys and girls, and we're going to have a clear beverage on top. So that way, next time we see you, we can rack again.
And that'll be in like a week, maybe 2, depending on how this goes. So it's been 1 more week, and it did actually clear out really, really nicely. We have a lovely clear at the top, but there is quite a bit of wispy lees at the bottom, and that's going to make racking it a little bit complicated, and, well, even just moving it to the table, it got disturbed a little bit, so I have to be very, very careful. But we do still have a couple more steps with this, so even if a little bit gets in there, it's okay. Let's get to racking, though. This is ready to go.
So we're coming into testing time, so we're going to rack to our pitcher, so that way we can make additions if necessary.
Yes. I'm leaving the cap on because there's so much stuff in there. And I'm only going to go part way in to get this started because I really don't want to upset it too much. Did I start it? Is it going?
Yes.
Is it good?
Yeah.
All right. I'm only going to move down 3/4 of the way till I need to. And otherwise, this is just racking like we've done before. We have videos on it. So at the end, we did have a little bit more waste, but I'd like to just point something out. That is literally just fuzzy lees. I know some people like to put this in the fridge and drain it through a coffee filter or something. If you want to do that, you totally can. To me, this is acceptable. I'm just going to put this in our compost, right? Is that what we do? Put it in the compost and move on. If it bothers me that much, I'll make more. That's it. All right, let's get this out of the way. Now comes the tasting part of the show, and for that, I need a tasting glass. Got my tasting glass. These little Belgian tasting glasses, I actually really like these. We have a link in the description to them. They're just great. They're like, what are they, 5, 6 ounces, something like that? I actually drink whiskey from them too because they have that beautiful bell shape. You know, they just work for it. There's a
floater.
There's a floater. Now I got my fingers in here.
That is part of the problem of working with full fruit, particularly strawberries. Strawberries like to disintegrate into this big mess, as you saw by the bottom of our fermenter.
I'm gonna spend half the video just getting this guy out.
You want me to do it? You're just chasing it around.
Here.
Give it to me.
I don't want no floaters in my glass. My hands are clean, by the way. I just washed them because I had to wash the glass, too. Oh, wow, that was impressive. Okay. First, I want to say this cleared really, really nicely.
It's a fantastic color. It reminds me a lot of the Fey wine that we made way back in the day.
Yeah, sort of.
It's that pinky, peachy color.
I'm getting strawberry and lemon on the smell.
Absolutely.
Really nice. And this is 15% ABV, so this is on the stronger side. How's it tasting? It should be really dry, though. This is 0.988.
I am not offended by that at all.
Okay. It's a little dry, but it's not bad. What it is watery. Has no body. I ain't got no body. Taste it again. See if
No,
you see what I mean?
I agree with you.
Immediately, it's very watery.
I just don't... So how would you suggest...
Well, there's a couple things we can do, okay? To give something more viscosity and make it have more body, you can add sugar, which... In this case, I wouldn't mind adding some sugar to this. I think it's going to make the strawberry taste more like strawberry.
True.
Okay? So a little bit of sweetness can bring back some of that. If that's not enough, we can add a little bit of wine tannin to it to give it even more body. Give it just a little more girth is the word I'm looking for.
The final way you can add that is by oaking it.
Yep.
Because that's going to add tannins from the oak. Mm-hmm. I don't want to wait that long.
I don't really want this to have an oak flavor.
Yeah, I don't think...
I want the raw tannin aspect rather than the oaking.
Right. All right.
So let's sweeten first.
Okay.
And see where we go. If you've ever watched our show before, you know how we do this. If you haven't watched our show before, welcome. And what took you so long to get here? Just kidding. I'm just joking.
So what we're going to do is we're just going to add a random amount of sugar. We're not going to weigh it. We're not going to measure it. We're just going to dump.
It's not random, though. It's a very precisely estimated amount.
Basically, we're back sweetening to taste.
Yeah. So I'm just going to add some sugar, not a tremendous amount, maybe like a 1/4 pound or so, because I know this is very dry. I know it's probably going to take, it can take a significant amount of sugar, but she liked it as it was. And this is more or less a Derica wine. So I'm kind of leaning towards her taste.
I agree with you. If the lemon was pushing forward beyond the strawberry because of the lack of sweetness. But if we really didn't want to pasteurize, if we really didn't want
to have to worry about
it, I could drink this dry.
Yeah. I'd have a little trouble. But again, not necessarily for me. And before anybody gets mad at me, I'll drink this too. Somebody got mad at me once because we said it was a your thing, and I kept flavoring it to my taste, and I'm like,
no, we drink all of it.
Yeah,
we both drink it.
Yeah, what'll happen is like we'll pull out a bottle, and she'll say, "Oh, you want to have this with dinner tonight?" So I'll have some too. So, but if I hate it, I don't drink any of it. One rule that we have learned about homebrewing is make what you like and make it how you like. Because if you don't like it, you got to give it all away. Yeah. And what's the point? I mean, some people like to do that. They actually make stuff just to give away. They don't keep any for themselves. And that's cool.
That's fine, particularly if you have a source that you know is going to appreciate it and you know down pat what their flavor profile is. Yeah. So that way you can...
Then you're making it to their taste and not your own. So you're still making what you like, essentially. I like the sweetness level. I think it needs some tannin.
Yep.
Before we sweeten anymore, let's add some tannin and see how that goes. What do you think?
Surprisingly enough, I think it has enough acid.
Yeah, I think the acidic level is good. We were planning on putting some lemon juice into this if it needed it,
Yeah.
but it actually is coming through. The strawberry lemon thing is actually working. I just, maybe a little tannin. Let's see what happens.
All right.
Here, we're back. I have here some North Mountain Supply wine tannin, and I'm just going to add like half a teaspoon. It calls for a quarter to a half teaspoon per gallon. This could really use some tannins, so I'm going to use the half and just dump that in. It's going to make it not so clear, but we have to pasteurize anyway, so
it's all good.
it's just one of those things.
And now what are you going to use to mix it up, right?
I'm using the spattle. It's a spoon, it's a paddle, it's both, and it's also wet, and I don't want to flick it all over the place. And you can get your very own, link in the description below. And yes, I named it. I'm very proud of that.
Yes.
How often do you get to name something that a company is selling? I mean, that's just cool.
It used to be that you could go on to Amazon and type in red bucket of sanitization and our bucket came up, but they sold out of our bucket. And
years
now
ago.
They restocked it, but you can't buy just one. You have to buy like
And they're tiny. They're like this big.
6 or something. It's just like, why did you do that?
They don't have the same one anymore. Okay, this stuff just doesn't break up.
Yeah. So that brings me to a question.
I should have put it in a little bit of the wine separately, mix it up with a...
So globby. Is this kind of a wait and see to get the tannin flavor out?
We can kind of get an idea right now, but yeah, some of it's going to have to dissolve on its own.
Okay.
It does eventually. Like I say, I should have put it in a little bit of the wine separately and done it that way, but I didn't.
You're going to need a glob.
No, not.
Oh, wait. Let me sanitize.
Oh, if you're good. Okay. I didn't know you were going to pick it out. I thought you were just going to drink it.
Ta-da!
Okay. Let's see if I can get some without a glob. All right. It does totally change the color right off the bat. Because, you know, there's all kinds of stuff in it now. I don't know. To me, it's still a little bit on the boring side. You said it doesn't need acid. I think it does. What do you think?
And that is.
Or do you want to just do more sweetness?
I think it needs more sweetness, so let's start there. But this is one of the things that you come across when you're tweaking it at the end, is that getting that perfect balance takes a little bit of ebb and flow. It takes a little adjustment on all ends of the spectrum.
Yep.
So don't be discouraged if you're like, oh, it needs some sweetness, and then you add the sweetness. So like, oh, well, now it needs more acid where it didn't before. Don't feel like you're doing something wrong.
No.
All those things need to be built upon each other. It's like when you're building a house or something. You have your foundation, and then you're gonna add some brick. You're gonna add some mortar. You're gonna add some wood, and then you might have to add more brick and more mortar. And that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It's just how you're building a house.
And also think of it like this. You know, we're going to spend 15 or 20 minutes testing this and flavoring it and doing whatever. And then it's going to be around for possibly years.
Yeah.
So to me, it's worth the little bit of extra effort to just make it good. Make it something that you're going to be proud of, that you would actually want to drink. And since we started doing that a few years ago, where we try to perfect them before they go in the bottle, the brews have been so much better.
Yeah.
We used to keep a lot of the bottles around, and I'd be like, I don't really like that one. I don't like this one. And now almost anything I grab off the shelf is, wow, this is way better than I remember. A little bit more sweetness in there. This is still not what I would consider sweet in any way. I would say this is like off dry. That's much better. Mm-hmm. Let me have another. We didn't get much that time.
I'm still getting that pop of acid at the end. Are you not getting that at the end?
I get it. I don't know if I want more throughout.
Well, if we're going to add lemon juice, could we just do half of a lemon?
Yeah, and my point on the acidity is this. If I feel like it might be slightly lacking now, what am I going to say in a year?
Sure, particularly after pasteurization.
Yep. Pasteurizing tends to take down the acidity level. It just makes it taste a little more mellow.
Also, this is a strawberry lemon wine. This isn't a strawberry wine. This is a strawberry lemon wine. So the lemon needs to have some presence. And before we started messing with it, the lemon was definitely a strong presence. Now I feel like it's kind of getting lost. So I'm cool with adding.
I also think once we add the lemon, we're going to need to sweeten it a little bit more too. I have a feeling. Because it's going to change the acidity level. It's going to change everything. So let me get a lemon. Be right back. Okay, so I have a lemon, I have a juicer, and I have a knife. All these things need to be sanitized. And we're just going to like dip the lemon in the sanitizer Don't get too crazy. This is 15% alcohol. Not much is really going to get through there. Okay, so she said half a lemon, so we'll start with half a lemon.
Well, you have to cut it in half to juice it anyway, so.
Yep. I wasn't going to say that, but yeah. I'm just going to go right in. By the way, I love this juicer. Yeah, that's a good tablespoon or two of juice, I would say. She was worried about seeds getting out. The whole point of this juicer is that the seeds don't come out.
I've managed to get seeds out before. Maybe they were just really tiny seeds.
Maybe. See? Yeah, it's all good to go. Okay. So we want to taste it as is and then sweeten it more to taste.
Yeah.
I want to apologize for the length of time that some of these things take, but it does take time to perfect something like this. And that's what we're doing, is we're just making flavor alterations, and you can't do it all at once. You got to do it a little bit at a time.
Also, this is one of the reasons why when people ask in the comments, oh, a big pour, oh no. But when people ask in the comments, hey, how do I make this particular variation of a brew? And if it's something that we haven't personally made, we don't feel qualified to give you a definitive answer. We can say, oh, it's probably going to be similar to this path and give you a link to a video that's similar in vein, but we can't tell you exactly because we haven't made it exactly. Like, we didn't know exactly how this was going to come out until we started making it.
Right.
And we couldn't have predicted all these additions at the end.
And even if we had made this recipe 5 times and in different batches, each one can still be slightly different. So you might make these alterations for each batch individually. Might be similar, but might be slightly different. I think it's good.
I don't think it needs more sweetening.
No, I think it's actually really quite nice the way it is.
That is lovely.
Yep, that little hit of lemon at the end really does work well for this. All right,
so that was half
a lemon juice. Small lemon. So it's like probably 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, I would say.
2 tablespoons?
Yeah, give or take.
So now we need to take a gravity reading.
Yes, which means I need all the stuff that I told you to put away earlier.
Okay.
Okay, I think we glossed over something that's kind of important. When we're done with this needs to be pasteurized, okay? Some people like to use the chemical stabilizers, and that's fine. We don't do those, so I can't really help you with those. We just pasteurize, and it works for us. But it is very important to do that. Otherwise, this has a potential for fermenting further. Now, it's already at 15%. What yeast did we use? Côte de Blanc. Côte de Blanc isn't supposed to go past like 14, so it's already past what it could do.
Yeah.
It might not ferment more, but we don't know if it would or it wouldn't. So just one of those risks I didn't really want to take on this particular wine, so we're leaving it as is. We did really good, 1.006. So this is still a semi-dry. Like, some people would consider this to be a dry wine. I think the fruitiness comes through beautifully well, even at this level of sweetness, though, and keeps the sugar levels down. So anyway,
at this point, we're going to rack this into
probably a regular wide mouth 1 gallon.
And then we are going to pasteurize it. I will make sure to link our full 1 gallon pasteurization technique in the description below if you're unfamiliar, so that way you can follow along with that process. But after that, we're going to let it sit, and then we'll be back for final tasting.
So it's been another week, and it is time to give this some judgment. First, I have to say, the smell on this is amazing. It actually comes through, but that's not the first thing we talk about. I know, I don't care.
Is repeatability.
Oh, yeah. How hard would this be to redo?
We did some lemon and some strawberries and...
I don't think this is that hard. I think we can do... We have score sheets, okay? Sorry, we're a little discombobulated today. It's been a rough morning, what can I say? So we have score sheets, and on there we have a repeatability score, we have appearance, aroma, flavor, and intent. And each of those is weighted. The repeatability score does not count in the final score. It's like its own little thing. But repeatability simply means if we were to try to do this again, or if you have no experience in brewing, could you make this?
I'm going to knock it to a 4, simply because zest of a lemon, what does that mean? Like,
People know what zest of a lemon is.
Yeah,
It's
but
like
is it a
no
giant
pith.
lemon? Is it a small lemon?
Yeah, I mean, we were a little less
some
accurate.
variances going on, but the majority of it is pretty much straightforward. So
I'd go with a 4.
I'm going with 4.
I think it's not maybe not your first brew, but your second brew, you could totally do this.
Sure.
It's not that hard.
Sure.
And now on to appearance.
Appearance is not only the color, but the clarity.
And just does it look appealing?
And just does that look yummy to you? The color
is not strawberry.
But it's okay, because I really like this color.
It's like orange.
Peach-orange combo.
Hold on. Let me show you.
It makes me happy. I don't know why.
It's weird, because in the bottle, like in the fermenter, see? It's like a nice red, but in the glass,
it's orange.
It's orange. Strange how that happens.
Peachy, pinky orange.
I mean, it's not an unattractive color, but I would think for strawberry, I'd rather it look more like this. That's me. It's also, I gotta be honest, it's not totally clear.
It isn't. And now I know some of you are going to say, well, how do I make it look more strawberry colored? I don't know, other than artificial additions.
Hibiscus.
Hibiscus.
Yeah, add a couple of hibiscus leaves to it.
And hibiscus, the flavor profile of hibiscus would go with this lovely.
See, we just created a whole new brew right there.
What the heck?
We did actually add pectic enzyme to this.
We did.
I'm looking at the recipe right here.
If you look into the glass, it looks super clear. But if you hold the glass up and you look through it, it's like...
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's nice. I mean...
It doesn't have any chunks. It doesn't have any obvious...
It doesn't look like soup.
Yeah.
We go 1 through 5 for appearance because it's important, but it's not that important.
Jump the gun. Take a drink.
Yeah, don't take a drink yet.
I'm not taking a drink. Put my lips to it. I didn't swallow one.
We're gonna show our score. We're gonna show our scorecards later, so you'll get to see all that. So for now, it's going to be a mystery.
Did you judge your appearance?
I judged my appearance.
All right.
Well, I judged the wine's appearance.
Next.
I don't want to judge my appearance. It would be a much lower score. Next is aroma. How does it smell? Does it smell good, bad, otherwise? What do you get from it, you know?
It smells like strawberry and lemon.
I seem to remember it smelling a little bit different last time we smelled this. We did pasteurize it since the last tasting. So, you know, we do a preliminary taste as we're building the flavors, and then we pasteurize it, and then we get our last taste. And that, you know, on the smell though, here's what I have to say. I smell strawberry. I can smell a little bit of lemon.
Yeah.
It used to smell like strawberry shortcake dolls to me.
Not anymore. Now it
Not
smells
really.
like strawberry pledge.
I'm also almost getting an orange thing instead of lemon. I don't know if strawberry pledge actually sort of. Yeah.
Oh.
When your wine smells like something you spray on a dust cloth. You know what? I'm adjusting my score.
I'm sorry.
No, you're right. All right.
Now I can get to flavor.
Okay.
Yay!
Flavor, we do 1 through 10. And if you're looking at our old scoring system, this is probably the closest thing to it, just this one aspect. But bottoms up. Okay, I get a good mouthfeel. There's a really nice mouth pucker to this. Like the tannin level is really good. And that's probably from the full-on strawberries. And a little bit of lemon to it. We did add like half the juice of half a lemon last time. I think that added just the right acidity. Interesting.
Now, if you're paying close attention, I did take a double drink, and there was reasons for that. We used to talk about it a lot, and then we stopped because it was annoying. But the first taste is basically to cleanse your palate. And I know that we just had another tasting before this. And so that first initial presence...
It's to acclimate your palate.
Wasn't really... Well, sure, to acclimate your palate.
Acclimation.
Acclimate to the alcohol content. And so this is a 15%, so it's not too shabby. So the alcohol sometimes interferes with your experience of the different flavor profiles. So that quick little sip kind of gets you like adjusted to the waters. You know, like when water is really cold when you want to go swimming and you have to kind of wade in. You're like, okay, all right, now I'm cool to this temperature. Now I can go in. That's the same. That's the same. I have to get a third sip now.
Yeah, we do go 1 through 10 on flavor. Here's what I'm getting from it. I'm definitely getting strawberry, definitely getting lemon. It's got a good mouthfeel and viscosity to it. it's not a flavor combo that I prefer. That's the nicest way I can say it. I remember what this tasted like before, and it was fine, but this isn't really my thing. I don't think it ever was, so this isn't any different than last time. Just maybe today I'm being a little more hard on it, that's all.
Yeah.
And that can happen, you know.
That could be a thing. And this is something we mention frequently in our tastings, is that your mood, your whatever you tasted just before, all of those elements, all those extraneous elements are going to affect your perception of this particular brew at this particular time.
2 hours ago, this would have been a 3 for me. Yes, it was a rough morning.
But for me, before I realized it was a rough morning for Brian, it probably would have scored higher than it is now, because the brew we just came off of was fantastic.
Yeah, we did a review of one of our older meads, the Backwards Blueberry. That was pretty amazing stuff. Just grabbed it off the shelf and talked about it.
So I feel like I might
this
be
was kind of an unfair comparison.
Doing a disservice.
But it's always an unfair comparison because
life is unfair.
The only way to make it a fair comparison is to be in exactly the same mood, eat exactly the same thing for 3 days prior, and do it at exactly the same time of day, and make sure that you got the exact amount of sleep, and nothing happened to stress you out in 24 to 72 hours prior.
Spicy tacos or hot dogs on the side.
I mean, come on. There's just no way. So, you know, I'm trying to be impartial. And that comes with experience, too, is you can be a little bit impartial even with those things going on. And I really looked at this and I said, okay, is this something that I would really choose to drink? And that's what helped me make my decision. Right. Regardless of my mood today.
Normally when we brew something, we are completely and totally selfish. It's either this is something I want to make, or this is something Brian wants to make, or this is something that
we both do.
We both want to make.
I probably didn't see you through that, but that was really cute.
That's right. So this was actually more something that has been requested a lot. I didn't request this.
I know, but you would like this more than me.
You might. Well, maybe.
More than me.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe more than him. I just looked at his scorecard.
That's not fair. You're not supposed to look.
It's not going to affect my scores.
Sure.
Or just seeing.
So that, you know, but yeah, I mean, you make it for your own preferences, and this really isn't my thing.
That said, our next category is intent.
Now, intent is not what some people think it is. Intent is we meant to make a strawberry lemon wine that was good, that the average person, if they were to taste it, would know it was strawberry lemon wine. Like if I said, here, have a taste of this strawberry lemon wine. And if your first instinct is, this isn't strawberry lemon wine, then we did it wrong. That's the idea there. So on intent, I mean, obviously we succeeded at making something that tastes like strawberries and lemon and a wine. But then I have to take it that step further and say, how nice of a strawberry lemon wine did we make? I know that the categories can sort of mix together, but you know what? This is like, whose line is it anyway? The scores don't matter, and who cares anyway? It's just numbers, and we're just talking, explaining how we made a brew and trying to express enjoyment and things that we can make better.
All right.
I do have a number, though.
Now that our scores are tallied, marked,
well, they're
whatever,
marked. They're not tallied yet.
Brian is going to math.
Yeah.
Because I run math on a good day, and today's not a good day.
All right, so let me do you.
Oh yeah.
All right, we got scores. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you sure?
Yes, I just checked to make sure I was sure.
Yeah, you had to check it, huh? All right, 1, 2, 3, 7.6. I think that's the lowest score I've given on the new scoring system. But I want to point something out. 7.6 and 8.3. That averages out to an 8.
Which is still pretty
really good, even for something that wasn't my taste.
All right, so rather than just end things here like we normally do, we're actually going to talk about this.
But we're going to show you the scorecards while we talk. So you see our scorecards up on the screen.
All right.
I gave it a 4 for repeatability. I think we talked about that.
I gave it a 4 for repeatability.
We both went 4 for appearance because, well, it wasn't perfect for appearance, but it looked nice. Yeah. Okay, and that's the thing. You got to remember, 3 on that would be average. It would be like neutral. Not good, not bad. It's just average.
It was above that. It was appealing.
Aroma, I was at a 4, and then I dropped it to a 3 when she said the pledge thing. I was like, yep, she's right. It smelled nicer last time we tasted it. I thought it was better.
And it's funny because last time we were comparing it to strawberry shortcake dolls, which is still artificial and crap, but
they smell sweet.
It's a happy memory.
Yeah, well, not sort of. My sister's bedroom was just gross to walk into like that, though.
Okay.
So happy memory, I don't know, but it's a memory, that's for sure.
But it didn't lead you to a bad place. It led you to a better place than pledge.
True, yeah. And then flavor, I gave it a 7. She's at an 8.
I gave it an 8.
It's not that different.
Yeah.
I was at 8 and went to 7 because I think if this wasn't strawberry lemon, I'd like it better as just strawberry.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a strawberry girl.
Yep. I've grown to appreciate strawberries.
Fields forever.
But the strawberry lemon combo, and this is why it took us so long to do this, because it's not really something that we like. We don't generally go for strawberry and lemon together.
And I think that's because we find the tartness, the punch of strawberry all on its own is fine. We don't need to add more acid.
Lemon is still growing on me in general. I don't do a lot of lemon things.
But that's just our palate. That's not necessarily your palate.
Yeah, and that's the whole beauty of this is, we did it this way because somebody requested it. But
then on a 10, we both jumped back up to 9. Both shared 9.
This is darn close to exactly on point for what we wanted it to be. Yeah.
Personally, I think from what I'm hearing from Brian, we both just wish it was a little bit more strawberry.
I just say we could make strawberry wine and be good, but we did that already.
We did that already. So what would we add to strawberry if we weren't going to add lemon to it?
Chocolate.
First thing that comes to my mind is not chocolate, and I'm actually shocked. I'm glad, ladies and gentlemen, that I am sitting at this moment when Brian said chocolate. Why?
Because I don't like chocolate with fruit.
He doesn't. It's a weird thing. It's like, how could you not like
chocolate? But I like chocolate-covered
cherries,
cherries, and I like chocolate-covered strawberries.
There you
That's
go.
about the only two things.
And we ate chocolate-covered strawberries on our wedding night.
Yes, we did. Provided to us by the hotel. They just brought them to us.
Yes, it was very sweet. But I wasn't going to go the chocolate route. I was actually going to go the vanilla route.
I think that would work really nice.
To have a strawberry cream kind of thing.
This is the beautiful part about homebrew is there's a million ways to do things with one fruit or one taste profile. The strawberry lemon is one way to go. We went with the slightly tart. It's got a little bit of sweetness. I mean, this ended up at 1.006, so it's actually fairly dry. It tastes sweeter than that, though.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We could also go the strawberry pie route.
But I would have left the lemon out for either of her suggestions.
Absolutely.
Take the lemon out.
With the strawberry pie, I'm thinking add some of our graham cracker extract to that. Maybe a little bit of cinnamon, just a touch of cinnamon.
Strawberry and cinnamon is actually a really nice combo.
Maybe even a touch of brown sugar to get some more of those pie notes.
Strawberry banana wine.
Oh, strawberry banana. We did strawberry banana. We totally. Oh my goodness. We have to have had.
We didn't.
He's making me search things.
We didn't.
Right here on the camera.
We didn't.
I thought we did.
Adam out there is shaking his head. Adam is our lore master in our admins. And he's shaking his head going, no, you never did strawberry banana because we didn't. We did something banana, but it wasn't strawberry. I think it was chocolate or peanut butter. We did peanut butter banana, and it didn't come out peanut butter.
Strawberry banana mead right there.
Okay, I was wrong.
All right.
Wow, I don't eat.
Look at that. Look at how happy I look.
Did it taste like strawberry banana mead? I don't know.
I look pretty happy, though.
How long ago was that?
That was 6 months ago.
Oh, it was a hydromel.
Yeah.
Okay, strawberry banana hydromel. All right, you're right. I take it back. I was thinking like a full-on mead. I wasn't thinking the hydromel.
That's right. It's okay.
Yeah. So Adam is shaking his head at me.
Are different. So we could do a strawberry banana wine because we haven't done that.
We actually haven't done a strawberry banana mead. We just did a hydromel. But a strawberry banana wine, I think, would be nicer than the mead because you have strawberry, which is a strong tart flavor. You have banana, which is a lovely base sweet flavor. Adding honey to that might distract from both of those. I think a wine would be a better option.
Also, because I threw in the strawberry pie in there, I know, I can feel him tromping around, the elephant in the room. It's it's raising its trunk and making noises that I'm not going to mimic right now, is strawberry rhubarb. And ladies and gentlemen, we have such a problem getting rhubarb here.
Somebody sent it to us and it's spoiled.
It was gone before it even got to us. It was probably halfway down the state before it even.
When I held it up, it was quite limp.
It was no good.
It wasn't.
And I appreciate your effort and your time and your money.
I think that's who sent us the meadow foam meat too.
But it was no good. No good. Florida's too hot. And in the summer, I think it seems like everywhere is too hot.
Yeah.
Our friend Adam is in
England.
the UK and it's
Just
too
outside of
hot.
London.
It's too hot.
It was like 86 degrees yesterday or something.
No,
like
was it 86?
Whatever. It was
hot.
It was hot.
It was hot. And that's not cool. Haha, pun intended, but not really.
Oh boy. We've taken a downward turn here.
So, are there ways we can go beyond the strawberry lemon wine? Absolutely, tons.
Yeah.
If you have a favorite one, if you have one that you really, 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 really want, let us know in the comments below.
Was that a Spice Girls reference? It totally was. Anyway, as always, guys, thanks so much for watching and have a great day.
Bye-bye.